All right, what is going on, Ravens flock? And I am joined here today by Ingraven. Ingraven, first and foremost, welcome to the channel. How are you doing today?
Hey, I'm good. I'm good. I'm really good. Appreciate you having me on, and I'm excited for this Ravens Dolphins game because these games they're very special and near and dear to my heart, especially being down here in Miami, having a lot of friends and family that are Dolphins fans. So yeah, this should be a fun one.
Definitely, definitely. Yep, I'm looking forward to it.
Mhm.
Especially after last year, I think we need a little revenge after that hot night in Miami. If I do say so myself, that was definitely one of the most miserable TV experiences I've had watching a Ravens game in a while.
Mm.
It's kind of like when you know how to do something, but just doesn't come to fold when you try and actually do it. So yeah.
Yeah, that game was ugly. It was rough, and you said it was one of the most miserable TV experiences. But a lot of us, especially the ones down here, we went there and got to
Uh,
witness the Ravens getting beat down in person. So
uh,
that added another layer to it. It was still a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun being there, but especially seeing all the Ravens fans and whatnot. But yeah, them Dolphins, they put it on the Ravens last year, and that game was a game where it wasn't close for very long. And it's not like the score was so far apart, but it actually seemed the way that the Dolphins were manhandling the Ravens, it just seemed like it was a blowout, even though it really wasn't, but it felt like it.
right, and I mean, you get a few plays that just don't go your way.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was like a drag route across the middle, and they just take it to the house because blown coverage. I think it was Chuck Clark or somebody on the sideline kind of got a little bit lost. So a few
Mm.
plays don't go your way, and it's just like and
Yeah.
then the whole show pressure look, but drop the guys in the middle. So you it's just yeah, very very unpleasant experience as a Ravens fan. But
Yeah.
um, let's get into it. So last week we beat the Jets 24-9. Pretty
Mm-hmm.
easy victory, if I do say so myself. A little slow
Mm-hmm.
start, but once things got going in the third quarter, maybe the rust comes off a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
The oil in the machine gets going, so to say. So, Ingraven, when it comes to last week, what are some things that you saw that were maybe improvements from last year, and what are some things you think they may need to work on?
Tackling. Tackling was definitely a huge improvement from last year because, and it is just one game, but at the same time, it's a great way to start. Last year, when it came to tackling, uh, Ravens they missed a lot of tackles straight up. They just missed a whole lot of tackles, and when you miss a tackle, that can turn a 2 or 3 yard gain into an 8, 10 yard gain, sometimes even a 65 yard touchdown. But they were really doing a much better job wrapping up, tackling, bringing that man down, and stopping the play. So that was big from them last week, and hopefully that continues as the Ravens move forward. Now, something that I think needs to be improved is actually offensive line play and pass protection because even with Lamar, he was very good in the pocket. He got this like crazy type of like superhero awareness. It's weird because it's like Lamar, he is like he can sense where people at without almost without even looking at him. Because there was the one play where I just knew that it was gonna be a sack. It was gonna be over. I forgot what quarter it was, but Lamar dropped back. He had pressure. He kind of had to stumble back a little bit, catch his balance. Then he was still looking to throw the ball downfield. But I guess nobody came open. Then somebody had creeped up behind him and dove at his ankles, and then he like hopped over him and whatnot. And it was just crazy, man. But pass protection's got to be better because even on 2 of the 3 Lamar, I think it was both touchdowns to Devin Duvernay. Pressure got in there, and there was one I forgot which touchdown it was to Duvernay, but where the offensive lineman, the left tackle, got like pushed back, and he was close to getting pushed back on Lamar's leg. So pass protection's got to be better because you even though obviously they scored it, it ended up being a very positive play. It was another second away from being something bad. So pass protection, offensive line has to get better. Pass protection and run blocking too, because they couldn't run it at all. The running game was so ugly that day. So with whenever Ronnie Stanley does come back, whether it's this week or next week, whenever it's going to be, that should help. Nick Boyle being back should help. I know they with Patrick Ricard, a lot of people were upset. Like, man, why is Patrick Ricard out there so much? What's he doing out there on every down and whatnot? But you got to understand the situation. Patrick Ricard last week, Ravens were down offensive lineman. They were down their blocking fullback, who was like an extra offensive lineman. So they needed Patrick Ricard to stay out there and help block a lot more than normal. So that's why he was out there so much. So when Nick Boyle and Ronnie Stanley do eventually come back, more so Nick Boyle, then I think Patrick Ricard, he would be relieved a lot more.
Definitely agree there. I think that I agree. Tackling improved a lot. I mean, you gotta love seeing the $70 million man, as Marlon Humphrey calls him, make like 10 tackles or 12 tackles. So he was really pivotal, and that was something that even watching him at New Orleans, he kind of was a little shaky with tackling, but see him come here and just be lights out in tackling, I think that was really cool. Kyle Hamilton, he got the moves put on him. Him and Stevens got the moves put on open field versus Garrett Wilson. So still work in progress with Hamilton, but overall, I like the improvement. It's not to the point where it's hurting you as bad as last year, at least for last game. Things can change, and we can have Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle breaking slants on us. So hopefully not. But overall, good win. I honestly would have liked to see Lamar stat pad a little more, and maybe that ball to Demarcus Robinson gets caught on the sideline, but gets intercepted. I was praying that that was like one of those like crazy plays where he catches it and the defenders bump into each other and he runs up the field for 70 yards. Because come contract time, stats don't get separated between game time and what do you call it, garbage time. So
that's a good point.
I was hoping maybe like 280 yards and 4 touchdowns, just to sprinkle a little more money in the contract. You know what I mean? So
I like it.
But yeah, overall, good game. No complaints from me. I just I do think that the biggest thing to me is a slow starts. That is something they need to improve. It happened last year, and the slow starts got so bad last year where we actually were getting down 14 points, but the defense just couldn't hold. And even the Colts game, we were down 18 points or 16 points. So next week, that's maybe you can get away with it against Miami if your defense is playing so well. But once it comes Buffalo, Cincinnati, Tampa, and then in the playoffs, you can't do that. It won't work.
Exactly.
And then the other thing was I think that they gotta shorten the play calling length of the names of the play calling, because it is a problem. They're getting up to the line still with less than 8 seconds, 5 seconds, 6 seconds. They're just getting up there and going, and it's like you gotta give Lamar some time to read the field and at least diagnose what's coming. Or this, like next week, if they get up the line late and the Miami is showing another heavy front, it's not giving Lamar any time. It's not doing him any dignity to at least have a look at the field. So, I think people say, oh, last year wasn't a problem with Huntley. It was probably because they shortened the names of the play calling. They probably shortened the words, quick one-word play calling, and that is something I've banged the drum for a lot, is shorter and quicker one-word play calling. Ingraven, any thoughts on that?
What's crazy? We were talking about this yesterday, and one of my guys pointed something out to me that I didn't even know about, because he pulled up the stats for teams that had the most delay of game penalties called, and 2 of the top 3 or 4 teams were the teams in the Super Bowl. So if that's a coincidence, hey, who knows? But it's just, I still told him, I said, sometimes when Ravens do that it can lead to, sometimes it works, but sometimes it can just lead to stuff being rushed. It just feels like sometimes it can lead to sort of a sloppy play. And it seems like sometimes like it's almost like lack of preparation. And yeah, what you mentioned about with Tyler Huntley, how it wasn't an issue with him. So that can make a lot of people think like, oh, wait a minute, is Tyler Huntley better at calling the plays than Lamar, more smoother than calling the plays at Lamar? But you got to think about context. Tyler Huntley is not Lamar Jackson. When Tyler Huntley's in the game, it's a completely different kind of game, because instead of the Ravens trying to really have him win the game, they just want him to manage the game. So they're going to simplify a lot of stuff because it's Tyler Huntley. That he's not the starting quarterback, and everybody knows he's not the starting quarterback. And as talented as Tyler Huntley is, he's not Lamar Jackson, and that's fine. That's fine. But yeah, I do think that it didn't bite the Ravens in the butt last week. But there were a lot of times in that Jets game where yeah, that play clock would hit zero, and that's something that I just recently learned too, because I was telling people like, man, there were at least 3 plays where that play clock hit zero, and it should have been a delay of game penalty. But I was informed something that I didn't know about was that it actually has to be on zero for like a full second before it's a delay of game penalty. So I didn't know that. And then on top of that, like what we're watching on the broadcast, the play clock can be a little different than what they actually see on the field. But regardless, it's still something that definitely needs, and hopefully the Ravens will clean up. But that's been an issue for such a long time. It's been an issue for a long time. So you just hope it's one of those things where it's like the Ravens can still get by, even if it remains an issue. But hopefully it doesn't remain an issue.
Yeah, and they even said this week, they asked Lamar about it, and he said that it's something they're looking to fix, hopefully. And they said it seemed like he said it is fixed. So we'll see come next week. And let's get into next week. So at home, 1 p.m. Miami's coming to town, and little reminiscent of last year's game, maybe a lot of Ravens fans are nervous about this game,
Should be.
based off of last year. And so Ingraven coming into this game, what do you think is the one biggest thing that could lead us to win, and what is the one biggest thing that could lead us to lose?
The same thing, and the same thing that I said was a positive of last week's game, tackling. The tackling in this game can help the Ravens win, secure the victory, or it could expose the Ravens and make them lose. Because especially when you have these receivers that are so capable of getting yak. Tyreek Hill, we know about Tyreek Hill, of course. He is one of the best receivers in the league, one of the best playmaking receivers in the league. Tyreek Hill, he got the ability to go deep on you, but even if he don't go deep on you, he got the ability to take something that's 5 yards, turn it into 15 quick in a heartbeat, because the dude is that fast. So it's just so important that when Tyreek Hill catches the ball, because he's gonna get his catches in. It's so important that you wrap up tackle. You got to. You cannot be missing tackles on no Tyreek Hill, because he'll make somebody miss. And we've even seen it in Ravens games and all. I remember games against the Chiefs. I remember back in the Eric Weddle days. And I know it's Eric Weddle, but still, I remember there was one play specifically where Patrick Mahomes threw Tyreek Hill the ball, and Tyreek Hill ran backwards. He ran backwards, like behind the line of scrimmage. So I was like, all right, yeah, we about to get a loss, or a tackle for a loss or something. This dude made a couple of moves, and he ended up getting like 10 yards down the field. And it's like, man, I thought we had him wrapped up. I thought we were going to make that tackle in the backfield, but it just didn't happen because it's Tyreek Hill. And he's like that. Like, he's one of them dudes that's like that. So you got to be able to tackle him. And then I remember earlier this summer, Jalen Waddle said he thinks he's actually faster than Tyreek Hill. And with Jalen Waddle, he's nice too. I remember last year in that Miami game, Marlon Humphrey was struggling with Jalen Waddle. He was struggling with him. And I know Marlon Humphrey, he struggles with those smaller, quicker wide receivers, those twitchier wide receivers. So that's going to be interesting how they match up. Or if they just have Marlon on one side and Peters on the other, however they do it. It's going to be interesting to see how they match them up on the different wide receivers. But that if you miss a tackle, that's just a big play waiting to happen. That's a big play waiting to happen. And those guys, especially with the speed that they have, you can't miss tackles. You can't. So it's so important that Ravens, they wrap up this game, because if they don't, it's going to be a really, really long day.
Definitely. I think for me, they got to do the same thing they did last week, and that's keep everything in front of them. Don't let anyone get behind you.
Yeah.
Don't let Tua beat you deep, because that's not his game. His game is not beating you deep. And if you let him do something that's outside of his game, that's when you kind of start stacking the cards against yourself. So yeah, I think they need to keep everything in front of them. Keep Marcus Williams back, and let him make his plays in the back end. Dare Tua to test you deep, but don't actually let him beat you deep. You know what I mean? So I think I agree. Tackling, you can't let Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill, one of the two best yak receivers in the league, get
Mm-hmm.
some quick, easy targets, and turn a 5 to 6 yard catch into a 15 to 20 yard gain, or worse, because you see Tyreek Hill, he can go from 5 to 50
Yeah.
in about 5
Uh-huh.
seconds. So
That's true.
yeah,
And then
so
and then another thing too, we saw last week, it made a big difference. And like last week too, Ravens didn't only get pressure, they got sacks too. And that is so important. That's why whenever love the Wink, love his attitude, love his swagger, love his demeanor, all that. But the one thing I just could never get behind was when Wink says sacks are overrated, because they're not. A sack ends the play. And at worst, if it doesn't end the play, then the play keeps going because the quarterback fumbled the ball. So with the Ravens, they were not only getting pressure last week on Flacco, and it is Flacco. We know he ain't the most mobile anymore, but still, they got pressure and they got sacks on Flacco. So they ended a lot of plays before they kept going. So this week, it's just as important. I mean, obviously, it's important every week that you get not only pressure, but you get sacks too, because that ends the play. That messes up Tua's rhythm. You got to try to throw his confidence off. Do what you can to disrupt Tua, because that'll just make everything easier for you in the long run.
definitely agree there. Once again, that defensive line should eat. Their tackles are going to be out. Teron Armstead is currently not practicing on. That was Wednesday. That was yesterday's report. And then Austin Jackson, their other tackle, is also not practicing. So if those guys are out, then that offensive line they got over there, I mean, this D line should eat them alive. And imagine, I mean, this is hope, but Travis Jones is in there. I'm just saying, we could really. It's probably not going to happen, but either way, I do think that this defensive line is going to eat that offensive line alive. And it should be a very long day for Tua. So flipping to the offense, let's. I think that the biggest thing for me offensively is offensively. I think that they need to pick up where they left off and get some yak this week. I think they need to hit some. I think the biggest thing they'll need in the back pocket is their slants. Rashad Bateman dropped his slant last week, and I think if Miami is going to show that blitz zero look again or cover zero look again, you're gonna need that in your back pocket, and you're also gonna need some pretty good protection up front. So those are kind of my thoughts how to beat them offensively this week. And I remember last year, we didn't start getting going until we ran tempo in the fourth quarter. So maybe this week run a little up tempo, some no huddle, and don't allow Miami to set up defensively. What do you think, Greg?
I would love if they did that. And you know what? It's crazy. And not that we're gonna run some like Chip Kelly style type of offense where they're up tempo 24/7. But I just think it's crazy how coincidentally it's like every time that they run a more fast-paced offense, they move that ball downfield, man. So I hope that, and a lot of us have been calling for that for years now, man. Because we see it, we see the results of it. We see what happens when the Ravens do it. And again, we know Ravens are not going to do it every single drive. We wouldn't expect them to do it every single drive. We know Ravens, they're a big team on time of possession. And that can make a big difference, especially if you're taking these long drives and you scoring points from those long drives, but that keeps the ball away out of your opponent's hands and whatnot. But if they could incorporate some more fast-paced offense, I think that could go a long way, especially if you're having a productive fast-paced offense. And then against a team like the Dolphins, if you're scoring points, scoring touchdowns and whatnot, then again, that makes it harder for them. And you want to make them play catch up. You don't want to be the one having to play catch up. I mean, sometimes there are going to be some games where you need to, but you want to make them play catch up. So it's important that Ravens get it going early. Last week, like Lamar mentioned, that was his first game in 9 months. So it had been a while for him since he hadn't played in the preseason at all. So there was some rust, a little bit of rust from him. There were some passes that sailed a little bit high. There was some that went a little bit low. But I was grateful that there were no passes where it was like, oh man, who is Lamar throwing that ball to? Who's that intended for? There was nothing like that. But so he had to get himself in a bit of a rhythm too. Then there were some drops from the receivers from Likely. So yeah, everybody just getting into their groove. So hopefully this week everybody can get into that groove a little bit sooner. Like you mentioned, with the Dolphins, they're gonna try to disguise that defense like crazy. They did it last week with Mac Jones. They're gonna do the same thing with Lamar. And I feel like with the Dolphins, it's probably gonna be one of those things like, all right, this is what it is. What it was last year, that's what it is, and that's what it's gonna be until proven otherwise. And a lot of people, they looked at that Dolphins game last year sort of as all right, well, okay, this is how you want to beat Lamar Jackson and those Ravens. This is how you do it. So Dolphins are they feeling confident again. They got one win last week, just like the Ravens did. So their confidence is up as it should be, and they're gonna be bringing it. So it's important that Lamar Jackson. It's important that Greg Roman and this Ravens offense. It's important that they recognize what the Dolphins are doing. And of course, they're going to try to switch it up. But it's important that they recognize stuff early and make the needed adjustments too, if need be. If what you're doing early on is not working and whatnot, adjust early. You don't have to wait super long, but you just make the adjustments early. And something that you mentioned too, as far as the pass protection, that is going to be super, super important. Because whoever the Dolphins end up sending is going to be very important. Obviously, that the 5 offensive linemen, they can pick up whoever, and then whatever running back may be in the backfield, it's important that he is able to diagnose who's coming, who that free rush is going to be when the Dolphins do blitz. So hopefully Ravens can be on top of that early on in the game and really just throughout.
Definitely agree there with all those points. You got to be on your P's and Q's offensively. This Miami's defense is pretty underrated and good. And obviously, like you said last week, they were still showing the same looks. So finally here in Ingraven, score prediction. I have I have the Ravens winning, and I'm swinging for the fences with one. 33-13. I think the Ravens put it on at home, and I think they do have their answer this time around for that 0 look.
I like that. I do think the Ravens win. I think they only win by like 2 or 3 though. I say like 28-25 or 28-26. I think it's going to be a close game. I do hope that you end up being a lot more right than I do though.
Well, to be fair, last week I said I said 36-11. And 24 kind of close. So, yeah. Maybe little more points on our end. That's why I wanted those stats padded so I could be right. But yeah, appreciate you for joining me today.
Yeah, for sure.
Any last thoughts here before we get out?
No, man. I hope that the Ravens they take care of business. And they get off to a fast start and I hope this looks like 2019 Ravens versus Dolphins. This will be the first time that Lamar is playing the Dolphins at the crib at M&T Bank Stadium. Because the last 2 times have been in Miami, so now he'll have that home atmosphere, have the crowd there cheering like crazy. They're gonna be going wild. It's the first Ravens home game of the season, so it's gonna be extra hype. It's like it's gonna be crazy there, man. I can't wait. I wish I was going to that one, but because it's crazy. This is like the only game this year that I really wanted to go to. This one that I wanted to go to the most. But we're gonna be watching it from the crib, but it's all good. We'll be able to we'll turn the TV up a little bit louder so we can hear that crowd noise coming in. But it's gonna be fun. I know it's gonna be fun for everybody that's going. It's gonna be fun for everybody that's watching, and hopefully the Ravens give us something to cheer about when the clock hits 0 and they can be celebrating the victory.
Definitely agree with you there. Hopefully the Ravens start out the season 2-0. But once again, appreciate you for joining me. I will go ahead and link your stuff down below in case people don't know who you are. And yeah, we'll go and get out of here. See ya.